Yeah, that seems to me that might be
Halder taking the cut through. Here we go. He's going to close in on Silva. He took the cut through on the corkscrew last time too. Is he going to do that again here?
Let's see, he's awful close to Silva. Silva goes a little bit deep. He is going to cut right through, comes in front of him, but he's a little bit out of sorts. Car manages to get itself back together, and Nico Silva tries to cut back on him, gives him another little hello, sneaks inside, down into turn 10, and makes a pass. I can't remember the last time I saw a pass into that turn.
It's going to take a brave move for the four chicanes here. No side-by-side yet from Sanchez. Trangarade will have to hold on through a tight section. White flag coming to checkered flag now. Sanchez needs a big corner exit here. Hard through the corner towards the final chicane. A slide for Trangarade. He hits the turtles. Sanchez with the pull. Side by side, they all slide. Trangarade wins it. My goodness, what happened?
Is that going to be enough to counteract anything? That's a battle for the lead as well. Frisha trying around the outside now. He's going to try to hold it out, but again, Poli Partanen able to hold it out. Oh my goodness.
And in the back, you can just see that is Juan Costa looking out of place, trying to get on the inside of Jukka Tolonen as they come around side by side and just shoved out to the grass. Thomas Simon has struck. He struck again, the second time in two corners. On the inside, going around the Lesbo 1 into Lesbo 2. Jukka Tolonen and Thomas Simon going at it. As we jump back to the car number 66 in ninth position, that is going to be Steve Way looking to make the move on Alexander Wilfred on the outside, making it nice and tidy. Hold on to your hats, come on. Don't do it now, gentlemen. It's still a bit too early. Oh, on the inside, still holding, still holding, still holding. He's hugging the inside curve as much as he can. Steve Dwyer on the last corner of the last lap makes a move and overtakes to take 8th position.
I think he has as well, but here comes the move for Philip Hammer. It's going to be down to the inside, going through the first corner, done and dusted. Lucetta tries to fight him back a little bit, but it's a little bit too late. But no, Lucetta's going to have the inside coming up the rise to Druids.
And in through Druids goes the slides. Philip Hammer's not able to make it effective on the outside, but on the inside.
Carl Weil's back-to-back wins have positioned him well in the finale. However, as with all sports, nothing is guaranteed in racing. If there's a mathematical chance, all precautions still need to be taken, and maximum effort must be applied. Will Ryan emerge as a champion? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 13 of the Outsider Racing League, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Tevin. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. A tradition that has recently changed in the real world, we end the season at Homestead. Let's head to our track guide to learn more about it.
The track boom of the 1990s and recovery after the devastating Hurricane Andrew brought this gem of a southern Florida track. It started out a bit rough. In 1995, the initial layout was like a smaller Indianapolis. It really didn't work. Slow, narrow, passing was near impossible, so they widened the track. That brought out a larger problem of crashing. They tore up the corners and made it into a traditional oval. Racing improved greatly, and in 2002, NASCAR moved all of their top-tier series finales to South Florida, and they would stay there for 17 years. Each end of the racetrack produces multi-groove racing and passing opportunities. The approach to turns 1 and 2 has produced numerous race-changing moments over the years, as it just invites you to make a move. You hit that 18 to 20 degree progressively banked corner, and it becomes a matter of who can get it back on the gas faster as you hit the backstretch and the row of palm trees that awaits you. Turns 3 and 4 are just as multi-grooved, although a few bumps in the low lane make the high line just a little more appealing. Even then, guys will use that low lane for a challenge that could last all the way to the checkered flag. Nowadays, Homestead's biggest customers on the oval are NASCAR vehicles. The trucks, B-Class, and Cup cars all make trips here and put on fantastic shows. USAC Silver Crowns raced here as well, and that often shows up on iRacing's official calendar for that car. Welcome to Homestead Miami Speedway, where the racing action is just as hot as those South Miami beaches.
Well, Joey, it's a mile and a halfer, but it's not quite like most of those cookie cutter tracks that we refer to when we talk about mile and a halfers. Tell us about Homestead.
Well, it is entirely different from the mile and a half. When you think mile and a half, you usually think quad oval or tri-oval like most of the others. But this Homestead Miami Speedway, reconfigured from its original configuration that was a little bit like a mini Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where you can see the two symmetrical corners between 18 and 20 degrees of banking. It is a very different oval, and it's a very different challenge. Multiple grooves is what we're hearing, so could be a heck of a race around these 1.5 miles tonight if the cars cooperate.
Yeah, and again, it's the next gen, so it's going to be slightly different from what we tend to see in the Gen 6 Cup cars. But before we get to that, let's head over to our standings and see what the championship situation here is in the final round. And up at the top, Carwile, as I mentioned, has his handy gap. Ray Massey, Casey Cotto's, Jeremy Miller, Mendel After all have to have pretty good circumstances to overtake him, especially since we're looking at 15 cars right now that are going to be taking place. So the chances are really much in Ryan's favor to take home the win, as long as he doesn't have too dire of a race. That's a big if, though, because anything can happen before we get to the checkered flag. What about for tonight's race details? What are we looking at here, Joey?
Well, it's looking basically the same as just about every other week. Round 13 of 13, we finally reached the end of the Outsider Racing League. But I guess before we can reach the actual end, we do have 130 laps to run. It is the fixed setup as usual, the no spare car as usual, and 5 tire sets this evening. I haven't heard much about tire wear. I'll have to inquire in the dying couple of minutes of practice. But if it's anything like every other week, it's going to be a strategy fest if we go full green, or at least a long green flag run. Fuel and tires, they seem to be a conversation in every one of these races, because we seem to get long green flag runs quite often. So we'll see how that plays into it once we go green here.
And we saw that last week with 0 caution flags at Pocono, which certainly made things very interesting. But I think what'll be fascinating here, as appropriate to the Florida weather, it's actually quite warm on the track surface, 107 Fahrenheit out there that they're dealing with. So with the high speeds around these high bankings, I wonder if that means that high line will wind up being preferred by the end of the stint just because of the wear that's caused by going on that shallower, tighter line at the bottom. But we'll have to watch out for that, Joey. It's going to be, as always this season, a bit of an exploration into the unknown. But before we get there, we're going to have to qualify, which is going to start in a little under 5 minutes. We'll see who can get that track position for the start of the race.
And of course, as usual, we have that Dash for Cash bonus. We've got the top 5 drivers from last week's race: Carwile, Lakatos, Massey, Halpern, and Laughter. I believe all 5 of them are in the field tonight. Yes, they are. I see all 5 of them on my screen right now. So them 5 will be competing for that extra $50 in addition to the usual 20-10-5 for the top 3. And there's also that diecast giveaway, which is very close. It's actually closer than the real championship. Ryan Carwile's got 232. Ray Massey's got 223. This is points scored since the Talladega race a few races ago. So Carwile has a narrower lead there, so he might win the championship, but will he win that diecast car? That's another question.
Which does he value more, the diecast car or the championship? But as we watch Zach Carr here down the back stretch, among our drivers still trying to put some laps in at this point. I was watching a few of them try to get together. I'm kind of expecting even more pack racing than usual around here, just because it's got relatively steep banking and it has that progressive banking to boot. I'm guessing I would have to assume it's going to be extremely tough to try and get away from one another.
Well, I've actually heard the opposite, at least from the early days in practice. I don't know how much the temperature has changed, but I've heard, and just from riding on board with some of the cars, that there actually is some solid off-throttle time on top line and on the bottom line. Even on the top line, that'll make the high groove, the sort of Kyle Larson line that he's made famous by almost running into the wall every time he tries to run it. So when there's off-throttle time, there is multi-groove racing. That's kind of how that works. So I think it might not be as big of a pack as we usually see around here. The long straights of Pocono really help drivers stay close together. The package at Chicagoland and some of the other intermediate ovals led to pack racing. But here it seems like it's going to be a little bit more spaced out, and it might be a little bit more of a driver's race than a pack race.
Ooh, that's a good sign, at least to me. See if the drivers like that. In the end, riding up against the wall here, I think that's Halpern we're watching as he crosses yet another lap with 2 minutes left to go. And hey, we're actually up to 17 drivers now. So they've been continuing to trickle in late into the practice session here for the season finale. Glad to see a lot of fun faces joining us for what should be hopefully a good time out there here in Florida. Since switched over to Phoenix for the finale recently in real world NASCAR. But I'm sure there's a lot of fans that have this as a special place in their heart. I'm the old guy here that remembers when they would end at Atlanta, if I'm honest. So, which is relatively similar to this place, or was at the time.
It was at the time until they reconfigured it, and now they're reconfiguring it again. So I don't know if we'll ever go to Atlanta again in the Outsider Racing League in its current state. I think the next time they get to it, it might be in the strange and unique new mini Daytona they've got going down there. So we'll miss that scan, but at least we've got this place to remember the memory of that old Atlanta.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a big question mark too. Are they going to keep the old Atlanta with this reprofiling? Since 2 tracks recently, they've essentially not deleted old versions, but retired old versions that cannot be run anymore. Watkins Glen and Phoenix, which I just mentioned briefly ago. So we'll see if Atlanta sticks around or not. But hugging down to the bottom, practicing that pit entry. Now, this is interesting. Are they allowed to have the pit entry without the pit entry lane there?
Yes, this is the NASCAR oval configuration of Homestead, so you can exit out of turn 4, which makes it more difficult, if anything, than actually the IndyCar oval, where you do have to enter on that apron in turn 3. So it's going to be a difficult pit entry. You're going to be coming full song out of turn 4. You're going to have to adjust your exit just a little bit to actually get it slowed down to get into the pits. If anything, I'd compare it to the Indianapolis pit entry in the IndyCar configuration, ironically, where you're coming off turn 4 at full speed and you've almost instantly got to get that thing slowed down. And speeding penalties have been a big storyline in past races, so it's good for these drivers to get some practice in here.
Keep our eyes close on that, see if anybody falls foul, especially if we get those green flag stops, which we did last week at Pocono. So you just don't know. Looks like warm-up has now officially finished up, and drivers take to the track for qualifying, seeing who's going to be amongst our first to get out there. And it looks like Tim Downey Jr. going to be one of the exploratory laps here around qualifying. In fact, it's slightly cooler, so that should be somewhat grippier, about 3 degrees lower in temperature compared to what we just saw in the practice session.
And you see Tim Downey in a new livery this week, the late July habanero nacho chip car, which I loved very much. I'm a big fan of them. Not a sponsor, though. That's gone. Now it looks like it's the Disney Polynesian Resort. So we'll see if the change of livery brings Tim Downey a little bit more luck. He was super fast in qualifying last week at Pocono, and he was in contention for the win. Couldn't quite get it, though. A little bit of internet trouble, I think, took him out of the fight here, but we'll see if Homestead has a little bit better fortune for him.
He's already on the backstretch on his first flyer. They get 2 laps to try and set their best time. From what I'm seeing, I think this is comparing to his practice best time. So it looks like he's about 1.5 seconds down right now. So that's hard to tell what this is going to be representative-wise. It's a 33.005 for Tim Downey Jr. Let's see who else can get one on the board and where they stack up compared to the 25.
I see the number 22 of Reggie Ortega out on track. Viewers of the Outsider Racing League only in recent weeks won't really recognize that name, but Reggie Ortega, he took part in the first race at Daytona. He's a big part of the Outsider Racing League, and he's finally back. He's going to sandwich the season, and he's going to finish up his first lap here. Where does Ortega go as Downey crosses the line as well? Just kidding. Ortega's on a warm-up lap, and Downey is still on pole with that 32.7.
A definite improvement there. So it seems like the second lap might be the money lap here for a lot of drivers. What about our championship leader? 32.6. And Carwile puts himself on the front row, at least provisionally, as Jeremy Miller takes the pole away by about 200ths of a second, rather. We're still waiting on about half the field to set a time. Let's see what the 22 has underneath him. Ortega on his first flyer for real this time. 33.2 on this one, and that will put him last of those who set a time.
Yeah, Ortega did not get much practice in, but he's getting his practice in qualifying. We've seen a couple drivers kind of do this technique over the past couple weeks. Join late, use your qualifying laps as your practice, but we'll see how much improvement Ortega can pull in this second lap. He's got a full lap and a full warm-up lap of experience. So can he go from a 33.2 closer to the pole that's about 0.6 faster than him? That was super close to the wall on exit. Not going to get a 1x, though, and look at that. He picked up 5 whole tenths, and he puts himself 4th.
That's not too shabby if that's his first laps of practice right there. And looks like Licato's finally on the board with a 32.8 for him. Zach Halpern across the line, 33 flat. And Caleb Weekly, his second lap, first one didn't count for some reason, 33.4 for Caleb, so he is well off the pace.
Here comes Halpern, only a 33.0. We're normally seeing Zach Halpern much, much higher up the leaderboard, but that lap only put him 12th behind a couple drivers he's normally ahead of. But through the final corner, he's tracking decently well, but he's tracking up into the outside wall. That was very close. I think he might have had to lift, and that's going to slow him down, but not enough to kill his qualifying position because he crosses the line, and he's still in 4th, despite getting very, very close to that outside wall.
Well, that's going to be the last of our drivers who are able to qualify. We're missing 3 with times. David Mott Jr., Clifton Cockrell, and Eddie Trejo. But otherwise, 14 of our drivers were able to put one on the board, and the clock is too far down for anybody to get out and set a competitive one at this stage. So that means the grid is locked in and set here today, and Jeremy Miller has managed to put it on the pole position. Ryan Carwile will start to his outside and clinch the championship. If he can stay in that second spot, that will absolutely do it. Ray Massey will be in 3rd with Zach Halpern starting 4th today. Reggie Ortega returns quite triumphantly here without a single lap of practice and putting himself into 5th, as Tim Downey Jr. will start start from the 6th position. Evan Adams will be P7 when we get the green flag, with Josh Banks starting in 8th. Row 5 sees Nolan Hodgson to the inside, and it is Casey Lakatos who will start from 10th.
Yeah, it was already an uphill battle for Lakatos to win this championship, but it's even uphiller now. But we go down to the row 6 with Mike Hurley and Ben Laughter, who's probably going to be fighting for 3rd here in 12th. Doug South, Caleb Weekly make up the final row of qualifiers. And then Eddie Trejo, Clifton Cockrell, David Mott Jr., the usual 3 amigos. They don't usually qualify, and they usually do make their way up through the field. So while they might be back there right now, while they might not have set any laps in qualifying, look for them to make their way through the field once we go green here in a couple seconds.
How long will we stay green? That's the big question that we've been wondering. Is it going to be similar to last week, or will we have a few more cautions? When we first started coverage at Martinsville in round 2, it didn't start on the greatest of notes, but they did wind up having some pretty good races following that. And we'd love to keep that up here to close out the 2021 season. The pace car just getting ready to take off. We're just waiting on Weekly, Trejo, and Cockrell, and then we are good to go.
And it is not mathematically clinched for Carwile. He has a very large championship lead, but with those halfway points, with all the bonus points, it's a complicated mathematical experiment, and he needs to get himself out of 2nd to actually give Lakatos or any of the others any hope. So for now, Carwile, if he just focuses on finishing well, maybe just finishing in the top 5 is all he really needs, that's basically going to automatically clinch the championship for him. And I think Lakatos in 2nd place knows that it's very unlikely, so he's probably not going to be pushing too hard. He's probably going to be happy for 2nd, but if Carwile does run into trouble in the opening laps and it's terminal, he can't get back out, then I would definitely look to see Lakatos, Laughter, Miller, some of the lower drivers to start getting super aggressive to take the fight to him.
Absolutely. And I mean, considering how close it is from 2nd down to 5th place, essentially, it could be anybody's game if something happens to Carwile. In fact, 3rd, 4th, and 5th are split by a mere 3 points. So motivation to do good for them, especially if they do value those positions higher up, even if they can't take the championship, trying to see what they can do to finish a little bit higher in the points after we're done. We're on the pace lap now and getting ready to go here in Miami, down in South Florida, looking to close it out on a high note. Jeremy Miller is definitely looking to do that as well, having taken 2 wins. Only one driver has won more than him this season, and that is our championship leader, Carwile, with 3.
And the one driver I neglected to mention earlier was Ray Massey. He's actually ahead of all the drivers that I mentioned, Laughter, Lakatos, Miller. He's in 2nd, so he's going to be another driver to watch. He's right behind Carwile. There's not going to be any foul play there, but if Carwile does run into trouble, look for Massey to try and pick up the pieces.
He's the most likely to. He's got a gap of about 8 points down to Lakatos at the start of this race, which is a handy buffer for him as well, should it come to that. But the pace car getting ready to peel off. He is in. Miller has control of the field. Green flag is out, and he takes that bright magenta number 30 up to the front immediately. Good jump there for the 30 car. Still side by side for 2nd with Massey at the bottom, Carwile up at the top. In fact, they're staying in a Noah's Ark formation through much of them. Oh, big bobble for the 23. Ray Massey does make a little bit of contact, and they're gonna fall off to the inside of the course. No caution yet. There it is. Ortega gets caught up, and it looks like Evan Adams is the other one.
That was a mess and a little bit of a parking lot down the back straight, as I saw everybody just spreading out to try and avoid. I think there might have been a secondary accident behind Ortega, but that was all caused just by Ray Massey getting a little bit loose out of the corner, and then unfortunately the checkup just led to that.
Yeah, Ortega was taking avoiding action, and he unfortunately kind of spun himself trying to do that. I think some ghost contact as well with the 25, but real contact with Evan Adams. Here is the replay, and there was a quick apology from Lakatos there. No, not Lakatos. It was the 23, rather. That was Massey, who got loose, saying he had not experienced that at all in practice and was not expecting it.
Well, that's the thing about the next-gen car. It tends to surprise you, but I just saw that blue car of Casey Licato's. That was incredible avoiding action for him to get on the brakes, so hopefully in the barrage of replays we can see a replay of that. But you see Massey, he just gets that little bit of loose. That's what he apologized for. Ortega actually avoids him, makes very little contact. He only actually makes contact with Evan Adams as he's coming back down the track. And there's Evan Adams into the wall hard. And then you'll see the blue car of Casey Licato's is a little bit further back. Evan does get moving. There's the 50. So a surprisingly clean accident, if you can even say that. Surprisingly little damage to any of these cars. I think Evan Adams just took the brunt of the impact on the inside wall there. And there's Licato's. That's what 100% brake pressure can do for you.
Nicely done. Unfortunately, I think it cost him quite a few positions. He's down in 13th, but he's taken the chance to pit in. Although it was only a 4.6 second stop. What could he have done in 4.6 seconds? Did he just top up on fuel?
I don't know. Maybe he had to like blow his nose or something, but there's not much you can do with 4.5 seconds. You could top up on fuel. They did only run a quarter of a lap at racing speed, so maybe that's what he did. Maybe he thinks that little teensy bit of fuel, if we go green the whole way, maybe that's the difference between running out in the last lap and making it. Who knows?
Possibly. I'm curious where the handkerchief checkbox is. Is that F3, F4? Where do you find that one? Sweet.
You got to get a doctor's note for that one. You got to have like proven allergies.
Well, Ortega definitely got some big damage from that one, and they have no spare car, so he's suffering from that. Evan Adams even worse. He's still sitting in pit lane, and he goes a lap down just now because the pace car has gone by, which it looks like lights are out. So we're going to go racing here next time by.
Poor old Evan Adams, it must be said. It seems like every week he just found his way into an accident, and it 99% of the time was not his fault, but that's bad luck for Evan Adams. But it's a fitting way to end the season if there ever was one. So hopefully we'll see him back next season, and hopefully there's a little bit better fortune for the driver of the number 59.
Massey also given an EOL penalty for causing that accident. So he'll line up behind everybody who's out there right now, but he's got a few drivers emerging from pit lane. Tim Downey Jr. and Ortega's back in very late. He's not going to get much time to try and get back out and back around here, but hopefully he can manage to retain the lead lap as the pace car is already hitting turn 4. And Jeremy Miller will have control once again, but this time it'll be the 26 of Zach Halpern to his outside. There goes the pace car. Miller waits on it. Now he goes. Green flag is out. Another good jump from the 30. Carl Weil still sitting in third position after losing a spot or two at the start last time. Probably wants to stay as far away from any incidents this time around, as he was frighteningly close to that spin the first time.
Oh, frighteningly close with Josh Banks on exit there, but they get away with it. There was a little bit of dooring there. Carwile stuck on the bottom now for the moment. On the restarts, it's usually the bottom where you want to be, just because it's a shorter line when you've got less speed going. But Banks was easily able to get by him on the outside, and now everybody gets back in line. Carwile only loses one position, and he's got a very hungry Oscar Mayer Wiener in Nolan Hodgson right behind him.
Carwile, I don't think is in any sort of dire situation as it sits right now. A couple drivers definitely preferring that high line here early. Getting back into line is Josh Banks in third position ahead of Carwile there. But back down low through 3 and 4. Instead, a few others are switching up to the high side. Michael Hurley, I can see, in the IKEA machine, giving that one a go.
Yeah, the blue high. If I said that right, I'm sorry to all of our Swedish viewers. He's attacking Ben Lafter. He does send it down to the inside. The blue versus the teal, and you see Caleb Weekly right behind. Hurley switches lines. He goes down to the bottom, and unfortunately, it looks like he should have stayed up there on the top, because Caleb Weekly in that rainbow number 10 car is about to sweep by him on the high side, and he says bye-bye.
Do you think the Swedish drivers on iRacing look forward to the meatball flag?
I think they do. Oh, Mike Hurley almost gave himself a meatball flag, losing it on the apron of all places, and swerves up into traffic. Good on everybody for avoiding that, but that was bizarre.
Yeah, just tucked it a little low. It almost, actually he got loose before the fact that he touched the apron. So we're seeing a few cars that are getting kind of squirrely in some of the corners here. And again, it is somewhat, I say somewhat warm. It is heated up significantly since we last looked. 120 Fahrenheit. Maybe that's why everybody's squirming around right now.
And it's just next-gen car things. Even at Martinsville, when it was a night race, when it was cold, the wiggliness is kind of unpredictable. And at this track, there are different seams. It's not quite the same as Fontana, where you know that there's a seam on the bottom that's going to kill you. But there are sort of awkward places on this track where if you hit them wrong on entry, you are going to lose the rear. And unfortunately, that's what robbed Mike Hurley of what I think was his best running position of the season.
Banks manages to get into second, at least briefly. Halpern up on the high side is going to try and fight back. He gets a good shot off the corner. So that carries on here into lap 10 now between those two. 26 with the nose ahead entering turn 1. Can he take that position back? Giving watch from behind them. That is the 95 of Hodgson.
Banks, he was just barely clear of the 26. I think he slowed him down quite a bit because Halpern just put the bumper to him to keep pushing him, but they have both actually caught Miller here. Banks is going to get aggressive. We haven't seen him in the past couple weeks, but when we have seen him this season, he has not been afraid to try and make the pass. And as he closes up to the back of Miller here, is he going to send it down to the inside? Yes, he is, of course. Can he actually do anything on the inside, though? It doesn't look like it. Miller's going to wash up, but he's going to have a much better exit. Banks is about half clear, but there you see it on exit. Miller just gets that train of speed with Halpern and Hodgson and everybody, and Banks is actually going to go backwards despite trying to make that move.
I did hear some chatter during the practice, too, that the side draft was very effective here. And I wonder if that's what we saw for Josh Banks, who briefly had a taste of the lead, but now he's going to fall all the way back down to third once again.
And just a quick update on the lap 1 accident. Evan Adams has disconnected. Reggie Ortega has disconnected. So unfortunately, the damage for both of them just seemed to be a little bit too much for their comfort, and they didn't feel like hanging out for another 100 and something laps. So we're down to a 15-car field, and that's great news for some of our leaders. It's going to be less lap traffic for them to deal with, but unfortunately, they've got traffic on their own lap to deal with, as the top 6 of the top 7 are under a blanket.
Yeah, they have got a six-pack going on 2x2x2. And that's good news for Carwile as well, because now the lowest he can finish is 15th place. So that's an even harder time for anybody who hopes to challenge him. He's on the underside of the 95. The Oscar Mayer Wiener car is going to hold ahead with that outside line down the back stretch in 4th position, but the battle carries on once again into 3rd. Ben Laughter trying to stay involved. He comes off of an interesting race over in the Camel GT series earlier this morning, Detroit, and it was not as messy as you would expect, but definitely gobbled up a number of cars.
Seems like we're almost going 3 wide here, as there's 3 different lanes drivers are using on entry, only to reconvene in 1 lane down the back straight. There's just 1 line where everybody's getting the draft, but you see Miller on the bottom. Banks was sort of in the middle. He has moved down to the bottom, and Halpern is running that super high line. So it looks like drivers are trying to use multiple lanes, but are those multiple lanes actually working? It doesn't seem like they actually are.
Yeah, it's really hard to pick out what's the best way around right now. Maybe that'll become more clear as we get longer into this run. We're on lap 15 at this stage, and I think this is about 11 laps into this green flag stint for a driver. So still quite early. And diving down to the inside of turn 3, the 95 tries to give a go to get past Halpern. Halpern drifts back up to the outside. This time it doesn't work quite well. And the Oscar Mayer Wiener car is briefly ahead, and he's falling backwards once again. The momentum starts to go back in favor of the 26.
But the 26 is on that high line here. Does he have the optimal exit? No, he does not. Carwile's going to get by him down in the bottom. He is in the draft of Banks ahead of him, but Hodgson quite clear of him, and he's going to get back in there in 3rd. Carwile desperately trying to use the bottom down there. He actually is going to get clear of Halpern here. Halpern had a little bit of a wiggle up there on the marbles up on the high side, and Carwile's going to get through to 4th. Weekly still in the fight, though, for 6th.
Indeed, and he'll slot back into line just ahead of Laughter in 7th there. It's not just Laughter who's been running other cars. Earlier today, we covered the Majors Team Endurance Challenge, and the 71 of Carwile was in a GT4 car earlier today, doing a stint in that team endurance race. So hopping over now to stock cars, clearly a versatile driver and looking to become a champion on top of it.
Yeah, Carwile is indeed a versatile driver. I've seen him in all sorts of things. I've raced against him in an LMP2 car of all things, and he spanked me quite hard in the LMP2 car at Monza Combined of all places. So that's how versatile this guy is. But Hodgson is going to get by him. Unfortunately, that Monza Combined experience not working for him as Hodgson gets by. Halpern trying to get by on the outside. Looks like Halpern's going to be up into the wall again. Oh, they've been stuck side by side here, and they're still stuck side by side.
The relieving news for Carwile is Massey, his nearest rival, is actually in 12th position and way back from him right now. So he's not under any threat, even though he's been losing a position or two. He just has to stay ahead of Massey as it sits currently. And they come out of turn 2 here. This is that next group back, heading up into 3. That's Mott at the front of it in the 4, being chased by Tim Downey Jr. And that's Massey up on the high side with the green 23 on the roof.
Yeah, Massey's just kind of in comeback mode. He's just gonna have to pick up the pieces here. You can never give up because you never know what's gonna happen. There's still over 100 laps left to run, but at the moment it's not looking great for his small championship chances. But once he gets by all these drivers, he might have a little bit of a clearer view to the front, but he's got to get by them first, and there's no clear view up here. Josh Banks seems to be holding up everybody here. I wonder, did he use up all of his tires trying to make those moves up front, and are they falling away from him now?
Seems very early if they are falling away, unless the heat out there, which is now up to 122, is just chewing up the tires and spitting them out right now. The 10 going up to the high side. Caleb Weekly trying something a little different to those around him as everybody else in that line of 4 stays on the bottom. But as close as it gets him, it doesn't get him by or even to the back of the 26. Now Halpern is going to give a try on the high line and imitate Harry Gantz, but it still doesn't do anything for him. We were saying multiple lines should give us some decent racing, but it's starting to look like everybody's stalling out a bit, and passing is proving somewhat difficult.
Yeah, I like how my reference for the high line was Kyle Larson and yours was Harry Gant.
I told you I was old. So, the 71 is going to look underneath for Josh Banks, but that's not going to do it for him. They come into turns 3 and 4 once again. The 26 seeming to like that upper line quite a lot, even if it isn't working as well for him. Now the 71 has got a good run going down on the bottom, manages to get underneath Josh Banks. Does he have the job done? It looks to me like he does.
Yeah, Banks continues his fall down the field, but on exit, it's actually a decent exit. He gets to the back of Carwile, but he's going to hit that air bubble behind him. He just wasn't quite far enough back to get enough of a draft to actually do anything on exit there, and now he's going to fall back to 4th as Carwile just looks like he's much stronger. Looks like he has much more life in those tires, and next up on his list to attack is Nolan Hodgson, and then right ahead of them, Miller's not too far away either.
Still running green ever since that first caution on the very first lap of the race out of turn 2. Up on the high side there. Looks like Josh Banks trying to experiment along with Halpern now. And they're dropping Ben Laughter behind them. It's up to 0.8 of a second. The 64 looking like he can't hang for the time being. And I believe he's being run down by Lakatos.
Yeah, last lap was pretty equal. Lakatos was faster by 0.5 of a second, though, so Lakatos could be bringing that gap down before we know it. This lap, Ben Laughter did 34.2, Casey Lakatos 34.08, so he is continually faster, but it's still a full second gap, so he's got to keep up this pace for quite a few laps if he wants to bring that gap down. But Lakatos could be in contention for 7th place here, and then maybe as Banks continues to fall off, if Weekly falls off, Lakatos isn't out of the question for a top 5.
Certainly not. And honestly, to me, visibly there, even with our camera shots, it looks like he is getting ever closer to Ben Laughter. But Laughter's starting to reel in Caleb Weekly. It's 4 or 5/10 of a second. It's been tight between Carwile and Hodgson. I wonder if the 71 was also among those who was saving his stuff because he's now come alive a little bit. After dropping back early in this race, he's picking off position after position. Can't quite get to second here as the 95 is going to continue to fight hard to keep him from getting into P2.
Unfortunately, the 95 doesn't quite have enough tire to fight him off, as for the second lap in succession, Carwile is going to beat Hodgson to the line, but Hodgson does get that late run to the high side, but you see him just fading away. There he goes, and Carwile easily up into second. But just by fighting with Nolan Hodgson for 2 laps, that's allowed Miller to streak ahead just a little bit more. It was 3/10, it's now 6/10, and Carwile's going to have to make that up just by himself.
Seems like momentum is still that key word for these cars, because as soon as Hodgson lost out, there came Josh Banks, demotes him yet another position. So these three, will they try and group up instead of fighting amongst one another to see if they can catch back up to Carwile before he gets away and run down both him and the overall leader? Nope, they're not going to work together. Is trying to go underneath. Nolan Hodgson tries to get the spot back, and it doesn't work.
Carwile is faster than Weekly, though, and here comes Hodgson down the inside of Banks. Banks has been using that high line. Hodgson's been using the bottom, and it looks like the top's going to work out once more for Banks. He's going to be completely clear of Hodgson. Can he get in line in front of Halpern? No, he can't. He might have been able to squeeze in there, but he elected not to. And Halpern's going to get up to the high side. He's going to be chasing down Banks. Oh, just a little bit of aero wash, and that's what put him in the wall there. Just that little tap that slowed him down, and that's about 5 car lengths that he just lost from that simple tap.
Well, not only that, the car got squirrely on him. He had to catch it after he just brushed that outside wall. So, yeah, he's got some work to do. Drifting up to the high side, the 95 finds the car of Banks there, and he cannot use every inch of the track that he wants to. This is really spreading them out at this stage. But Carwile, I said he was saving his stuff. He has really saved it, because he's run down Jeremy Miller. But it's one thing to catch, it's another to pass.
That it is indeed, but Miller has been historically very good on his tires as well in these long runs this season, but Carwile looks like he might just be a little bit better at the moment. He didn't have the better of him in qualifying, but through turn 4, just a little teensy bit of a half wiggle from Miller, and that's going to allow Carwile to get right up to the back of him if he wanted to. He could send it down to the bottom here, but he elects not to. He's going to stay in line. He is going to get under him about in the middle of that bottom seam. Oh, but he's going to have to lift here. No, he isn't. He didn't turn him, but Miller turned himself.
And that's going to bring out our second caution. Doesn't hit a thing. Everybody's able to avoid. Someone had to duck down to the low side. I think that was indeed Nolan Hodgson, who just decided to escape to the apron there, now that they have the new paved infields here, or apron rather, at this version of Homestead. Used to be grass until a year and a half ago or so here on the sim. Wonder if we could get a replay of that incident. That was very interesting. I know in the past we've talked about being able to take the air off the car ahead. Is that what he did, maybe?
I don't think so. I think Miller just got that little bit loose on exit, and it looks like Carwile got into the back of him, but I don't think he actually did. I don't know if the air push there is simulated. Can you push like 5 inches of air onto the back of the car ahead of you? Because that might be what happened, but to me, it just looked like the same thing we've seen from a couple drivers. Miller just got a little bit too aggressive, just a little bit of a wiggle, and he lost it, and then he did save it by going sideways down the back straight, and yeah, I don't think Carwile had anything to do with that. I think it was all Miller.
Yeah, I'm watching both this replay and the one on my screen, and if there was any contact, it was already after the 30 was quite loose. So in the end, Miller probably only has himself to blame. They're all down pit lane in the meantime, and someone missed their stall. Casey Lakatos just breezes by everybody, and he'll have to come back around. So who is the first one out of these pit stops, as the 30 is down, but he's not rolling. It looks like the 71 is going to be first out, as he was first in. Banks follows him, Halpern third, and Hodgson fourth.
Pretty straightforward stuff. Looks like Ben Laughter didn't have a very good time in pit lane. I think he might have overcooked his box just a little bit. He was a couple seconds slower than everybody else, but Eddie Trejo, a big mover, up to 9th, and Tim Downey up to 8th as well, and Ray Massey up to 7th. So a lot of movement in the middle of the field, but up front, it's almost exactly as it was when they came in.
Credit to Massey getting back in this thing. Remember, he was sent pretty much to the back of the field after that first caution. Well, he was literally sent to the back of the field with an EOL, actually, after that first caution, but he's recovered to 7th nicely. And now he's got better track position, and his tires are on the same strategy as those around him. Let's see what he can do with this once we get this rolling again. And I think the lights are already off on the pace car.
And as Lakatos comes down pit road this time after missing his stall, that actually promotes Massey up to 6th. So he's even closer to the front than he was before. He goes from 7th to 6th, and I would not count him out for this win. He had great pace. He was 3rd in qualifying. He was fast in practice. I don't think it's over for Ray Massey to at least win to end the season.
Yeah, and if I'm Ray, that's exactly what I'm doing. You know, who cares what happens with the championship? He's got to get the best finish he possibly can. Let's just go out there, take the win. Let's see if he can do that. But Carwile has positioned himself quite well. And he's already up to the point after starting in 2nd, dropping a few positions, but it seems he was playing possum there. He's taken 2 wins in a row these last 2 races, giving himself this handy gap and an easy run to the finish line, if you will, in this last race of the season. But he still wants to keep it up, making it a hat trick, and getting up to 4 wins at the end of the season during the playoffs. There goes the pace car. Now it's Carwile's turn to control it, and green flag will give him a handy jump over Josh Banks, who looks like he might lose his spot to Zach.
Massey on the high side, about 2 rows back. Downey sends it to the inside of Caleb Weekly. Weekly's getting swallowed up in the middle of your screen there. Massey on the outside. Weekly's going to back out of it, but Downey actually gets past Massey. But Massey's going to get a pass or a push from Trejo here. Oh my goodness, they're all covered up in the back here. But Massey looks like he's going to get clear of everybody as Trejo almost drives into the wall.
And Miller is also in a bit of a danger zone as he's 3 wide, weaving back and forth a little bit. Now he gets it settled out, but he's stuck between Trejo and Weekly. Still hoping that he can get some clear track. Unfortunately, none of the 3 are giving way, and this is going to get sketchy if they keep this up. Somebody's got to try and take the point here.
Well, Miller's getting aggressive here because he wants to make up for lost time. He actually hasn't lost as much as I would have expected. He sent himself to the back of the field, and he's already back up to 7th after that restart, and he's all over the back of this train, but he has to be careful. Don't get too aggressive right now because you want to save those tires. You saw what happened at the end of the last stint. Miller lost them. Carwile still had them. So Miller has got to think about that while he's back here, but something tells me he wants to pass his way back up to the front. He's going to get aggressive here to the inside of Tim Downey. Massey goes to the inside of Hodgson. Is the bottom going to work for both of them? Let's see.
Looks like it's going to work for at least Jeremy Miller, and the 23 of Massey manages to pull ahead of the 95. I am seeing a familiar pattern in front of them, though. Carwile has already lost the lead as Halpern is now at the top spot. Carwile drops to 3rd, but he hasn't been losing more positions, so this might actually work out even better for him. I suspect he once again is just holding on to things, waiting for the right moment to really unleash this car. As the 23 gets attacked by the 95, Hodgson going to be able to take this spot away from Ray Massey, slots up in the line ahead of him.
And I do wonder, since that caution came out on lap 30 at such an opportune time, could they do the rest of this race on a 1 stop? If we remember last week to Pocono, it was 30 laps on a single tank of fuel. That was a 2.5 mile track. This is a 1.5 mile track. So Pocono was 166% longer than Homestead. 166% of 30 is 50. 50 times 2 is 100. There's 100 laps left in the race after the restart. Ergo, 1 stop. Can anybody do it?
Is that... We have you not been told you don't do math live on air on GSRC? That never goes well for anybody.
I think it was correct. I don't know. I'll have to have a mathematician to check my work.
In the meantime, only side-by-side racing we've got is Miller and Tim Downey Jr., and Miller does not have the momentum. He's going to get back in line before Eddie Trejo is able to get by. We're starting to get single file a little bit earlier in the stint than what we saw before last time. And onto the front stretch. Could this be drivers maybe taking a lesson from that last green flag run to just hold on to the tires and not fight amongst one another quite as hard?
Well, Banks is fighting pretty hard to the back of Halpern. He hasn't been able to make the move, though, and it looks like, honestly, he's actually backing out of it down the back straight just to hang out in the draft of the 26. He doesn't seem especially eager to make that move, so I wonder if he does know about the fuel situation. He might be thinking about saving just a little bit by just staying in the draft of Halpern. Let's see down the front straight here. Yeah, he's not making up as much ground as you would expect him to. He is sending it down a little bit lower. He's definitely trying to make the pass, I think, but when he doesn't get close enough down the back straight, he seems to be happy to just hang in the draft for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. And we have to remember, these cars are at 80% fuel compared to what the real ones are able to hold. So they're not going to have a completely full tank like you'd expect with slightly shorter stints. And once again, man, Jeremy Miller's not having a good time here. He's going to lose out to the 23 and I think even the 21. He's going to come back at him with a shorter line down across the bottom. And it does work out for him, and he manages to get underneath Massey, who had to check up for Tim Downey Jr. in front of him. But I'm not seeing a lot of progress. Oh, Banks up at the top. I heard you make a noise, and looks like we got a new leader.
Yeah, there we go. So much for that saving fuel. He did finally make the move, and now Halpern's going to be the one saving fuel. As Massey, you saw in your background, he just put it in the outside wall again. Another scrape on the exit. He's going to lose the track position to Eddie Trejo now, and to Jeremy Miller as well. So that's Massey down from 6th to 8th now, and Miller up to 6th.
There's definitely some drivers who are thriving here in this package and others who seem to be struggling, trying to figure out how exactly it behaves. But Banks up from 8th on the grid to lead right now. Behind him, we've got a few other great movers. Trejo, who failed to qualify, has gone from 15th to 7th. Not a bad day for him as it sits right now. But this first pack seems to be ending just behind Trejo with Massey, because Laughter's falling off. Looks like Lakatos is losing touch. And then from there, you've got a few stragglers at the tail end of this pack.
Halpern is actually pushing Banks into the corners, which is interesting. That's even more interesting, but he saves it. Well done. Well done, Zach Halpern, but he was getting aggressive there.
Oh, Miller's off.
Oh, dear. Oh, and he's going to drive it into traffic.
He's able to get it stopped, and that's going to bring out the caution. A few drivers having to take evasive action. That's our second quick caution in a row. Trying to see if he actually did make contact with anybody on that one. Oh, yeah, it was initiated by contact. Came together with Tim Downey Jr., and then the checkup allowed Eddie Trejo to get in the back of him just like that into the wall. The 30 has got to be severely damaged from that one.
Yeah, that was just a little bit of unfortunate luck. It looked like they would have been fine racing side by side, Miller and Downey, but they just got hooked together just a little bit, and that sent Miller into the wall. You can see, oh, there was contact there. I looked at it at a different angle, but Miller definitely did get hit by Downey, who was just coming down a little bit there, and that just sent him down into the inside wall.
So bringing the caution back out, those three will definitely have to come in to get some repairs. We're going to watch from, I think this is on board weekly.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about when Miller sent it back up into traffic. He did eventually get up on the brakes, but yeah, that was a worrying moment for Caleb Weekly, but he knew where to go. He pointed it straight, and he made it through.
We got a few drivers coming in for tires, more than I expected. There's only 5 sets total that these drivers have to their name today. So it looks like the call for most of them is to come in. Banks, Lakatos, and Mott Jr. are the only 3 that will stay out.
Yeah, Carwile. Oh, there's Miller, and he completely overcooks his pit stall there. He has to back it up. That's just going to add insult to injury for him. But Carwile should not lead this race off pit road, but he does anyway. He was not the leader coming into pit road, but where's Halpern? Where did Zach Halpern go? I think he got a speeding penalty.
Oh, no.
No, he didn't. He got out. He was just stuck in there for quite a few extra seconds. I'm going to look back and see if he overcooked his pit stall there, because I think that might be the alternate explanation, or maybe he took a little bit extra fuel.
He brushed the wall earlier. I wonder if he was getting some damage repaired.
Maybe.
Just to get that thing back spick and span.
Yeah, that would be like 8 seconds of optionals probably, so maybe that is what Halpern was doing, but unfortunately, he was ahead of Carwile, and now he's 7 places behind him. So was that damage fixing worth it? I'm not so sure.
I don't know, but this has jumbled up the strategy. As I mentioned, we had 3 drivers stay out. So they've got older tires, but they also have an extra set compared to those around them if it does come down to the end. We haven't really gotten a look at these sort of differing strategies. This will really give us an idea of if this is a good idea or not, because if they get blown past by all those on fresh tires, that to me says save yourself a set for the last few laps just in case.
Yeah, you'll definitely want to do that if there is that green-white checkered. It's not the first time we'd see a 1-lap restart in a championship finale in the past couple weeks, so if that happens, you do want those fresh tires. You don't want to restart in the lead on old tires, so we'll see if there's a couple more in the bank. There should be quite a few tire sets left in the bank for most of our drivers, but there are some who have made 3 stops instead of 2 stops. So Doug South has made 3 stops, Massey's made 3 stops, and Downey has made 4 stops. So they didn't take tires on all of those, but they did on most of them. So those guys are going to be the ones in the worst shape.
You know, now you've got me curious how many weeks we've gone without an F1 reference, because for a while that was like all we talked about on this broadcast was making comparisons. But we are back at square one, and the pace car is going to reset them as well as he unleashes Josh Banks. Green flag is out. He gets a good jump, and so far they are not being gobbled up by those on fresher tires, despite having what looks like about 17 lap older tires. They're starting to get up to speed though first.
Yeah, this is where that's going to happen. Once we get into these corners through turn 1, it was actually pretty good for Banks and Lakatos and Mott. They actually pulled a little bit ahead of Carwile and Cockrell and Laughter, who falls back. But here you see the new tire life for Carwile. He sends it up into the high line. But the bottom line for Mott and Lakatos and Banks still working. It's not as different as I thought it might be for Carwile. I thought it would be blown by them on the high line, but no, they're hanging tough.
I thought so too. And even coming up to that high side, it looks like he's going to get passed by Cockrell, who manages to go underneath him. We've also had our latest DNF. Jeremy Miller has elected to call it a night, and he is gone.
Yeah, Jeremy Miller coming into this race, he was 4th or 5th in the championship. He's going to be in danger of getting past here as Cockrell gets by Mott. There was definitely contact there, and Carwile is going to send it 3 wide into turn 1. Is everybody going to leave each other enough room? Oh, dear.
So far, so good. I kind of don't blame the 71. This is the sort of thing that he wants to stay away from, is all this craziness and getting caught up in those who don't have the same importance on this race as he does. As behind him, Zach Halpern splits the middle between Mott and Weekly, and that's going to get him behind his rival. So the 26 now chasing that slipstream down the front stretch, and 3 wide once again with the 71 in the middle, and Halpern gets a 2 for 1.
Carwile definitely backed out of that one, and I can't blame him. He's in self-preservation mode here. He doesn't need to win this race. He doesn't need to make risks like that, so he backs out of it. But unfortunately, the consequences of that, Cockrell's going to get by him, Weekly's going to get by him, and looks like Laughter's going to try and send it through the middle, but he's going to back out of it. Oh my goodness, I've said the phrase cars under a blanket about 3 times in this broadcast, and they keep making me use it.
Indeed. Appropriate considering you've got a hot dog car out here. So as they come around through 1 and 2. The 10 liking that high side, but he almost gets down into the 28. He has to back out of it. As up to the top spot, the 26 likes this bottom line. He manages to go past Casey Lakatos, and once again, Halpern looks very quick today.
Quick on the short run, though, which is worrying for him as he does streak away. He's going to hope that Carwile gets a little bit stuck here behind Banks and Lakatos. If Halpern can build up as big of a gap as he can, that will make it much more difficult for Carwile to catch him. But look at Weekly up there on the very high side. Oh, dear.
And that tips around Carwile as well. Banks is going to push Lakatos. Did Carwile get the wall, or is he clean?
He did not get the wall, but he does have rear end damage now from getting turned there. That's bad news for him. But who got through? Ray Massey did get through. He's up to third, but Carwile could be in worse shape. He's just got a little bit of rear end damage.
Oh, boy. That was a cluster out there. Kind of surprised. What got into them? We're barely halfway through this race, and this stint just exploded with action.
Yeah, I don't know who really caused that. Weekly said, I'm going to go up to the high side because he knew that Lakatos and Banks were probably going to hold up Carwile, and it almost worked for him until it looked like Lakatos just washed up in the natural line, and Carwile got into somebody and Banks got into somebody. There were about 3 different collisions there, and I don't think we can really blame it on any single one of them. I think Banks might have just barely washed up into Carwile's nose, but there were so many cars in such a small space there that was kind of bound to happen.
Yeah, I guess file that under one of those racing deals. So, and drivers in pit lane, no surprises. Banks is amongst them. Weekly pits in. Cockrell's in there. Looks like Hurley, Trejo, Mott, Lakatos, and of course, Carwile, who loses all that track position that he had. Hopefully the car for him is up to speed when he returns. We'll see how much repairs he takes in the process. And Doug South has been sitting in pit lane for about 1.5 minutes. How did he get down there?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't really want to put a focus on this, but I think Doug South blew his engine trying to downshift as the caution came out.
Whoops. So it's those 5 gears. He's not used to going down so many, I guess.
Oh dear. And we're gonna see. I'm so sorry, Doug South, but we're gonna see a replay of it. Yeah, there you see. There's the puff of smoke, and that is Doug going kablamo.
So Carwile staying in there to get those repairs done. Lakatos, Weekly, Trejo, all going to get the sheet metal banged away at, and Carwile's among the first to leave, though. So he'll be in 10th. That is still not too bad. Let's see of his rivals. Looks like Ray Massey's sitting in 3rd. That's honestly probably the worst news he could see. Ben Laughter is in 4th. That's not too bad. Laughter's really got to win this race and hope for everybody else to have a big problem. Lakatos is with him. Miller's gone. So really his biggest concern probably is the fact that Massey sits on the podium while Carwile has been demoted to 10th. And in fact, he's going to have to come in for a second time to get a few more repairs.
And we do have to start thinking halfway points here. They're going to come in only 7 laps time. If Massey finishes where he is at the moment at halfway, he gets 8 points. And if Carwile is where he is at halfway, he gets 0 points because he's outside of the top 10. And with that championship lead, that's going to decrease it by almost half or more than half.
More than half,
Massey's going to outscore him by 8 points. And then once we get to the actual finish, that's going to be that many less positions that Massey needs to beat Carwile by.
Well, the good news is it looks like he should be able to stay on the lead lap. Yeah, he's already back out here and rolling. The interesting, it looks like the rear, okay, I can still see some of the damage on the rear. He's got a little bit on the right front from what I can tell as well.
Might be from Banks originally running into the nose of his car driving up there, but who knows? There were so many cars there. Who knows where you got damage in all of them. It looks like, honestly, the rear end is mostly completely repaired. The next gen has a kind of weird looking rear end, but you can see the scratches on the back of Carwile's car, but other than that, it's not as bad as that car could look right now. Massey probably wishes it looks a little bit worse, but for the moment, Carwile is still very much alive, even if he is at the back of the pack.
Yeah, right now seeing him scored in 12th. And they're starting to get lined up. They're going green next time by. Lap 65 is your halfway mark for those points. And they're not going to throw a caution if you're new to this series. This is not your typical stage racing. They will keep rolling, and the points will be handed out. So up at the front, though, Zach Halpern going to get himself some 10 extra bonus points if he can just hold on to that top spot. Hodgson going to try and deny him that. Halpern came in 6th in the points, but he's 42 points behind. In fact, I think that might be too far back mathematically, especially with 3 retirees at this stage, for him to have any chance at the championship. There goes the pace car, and the green flag is out. Nice jump for the 26. Left the 95 hanging. And already they're jockeying for position. Maybe that's what we were seeing before. Drivers trying to position themselves for those halfway points, but it was still a little early for stuff like that as the 28 drifts high. And we're going to get another caution very quickly. It looks like Mott is going to get involved. Weekly and Cockrell.
That was bizarre. Mott just came up and absolutely speared into the side of Clifton Cockrell there. I don't know what happened. We'll have to take a look at a replay. I think he might have just gotten loose down in the bottom. No, he didn't. He did not consider the fact that there was a car in front of him, and he just went full speed into the back of him. He misjudged that completely. Bang.
Wow.
And unfortunately, Caleb Weekly, just an innocent bystander there. Unfortunately, couldn't avoid that one like he did Miller a little bit earlier, but yeah, that was just Mott getting a little bit of target fixation maybe, but he just did not consider the fact that Cockrell was going to be that slow, and bam, and then he gets T-boned for good measure.
Ugh. Just going to hurt their top speed, no doubt. Well, bad news for Ray Massey. Carwile got promoted to 7th because of all those cars in front of him having problems. So he is going to get a couple bonus points and limit the damage that Massey is able to do once they get across. And I think they are going to be under caution at that halfway mark.
Well, we're on lap 61. I don't know if we'll be under caution. I think we might get a 1-lap shootout to halfway where there won't be a caution as usual, but it will be halfway of the race. That's where the points will be scored. Carwile might want a couple extra positions just to bring down that gap to Massey a little bit more. They're separated by 4 positions at the moment, but that's 4 championship points. That brings the gap down from 10 to 14, or from 14 to 10. And actually, I think it's 11 because Carwile led laps, so he got a led lap point. Massey has not led a lap yet, so that's yet another complication to this mathematics tournament here to figure out who's going to win this championship. But to make it easier for everyone, Carwile's probably just going to want to beat Massey to the line at halfway.
Exactly. And man, it has gone completely different to the first, what I would say about 50 laps of this race. We mostly had some pretty decent runs in there, and now suddenly it's been just a spate of cautions that has slowed things up. Are we seeing some senioritis and drivers are just eager to get this over with?
I think they might realize that the package hasn't been as good for racing as they initially thought it was, and they're just kind of getting aggressive on these starts and restarts. They're desperate to make the moves. They're desperate to get the positions and the track positions. And unfortunately, when you pack too many cars in a small area, they tend to collide with each other. And that's why we've had this sequence of cautions breeding cautions. But now that we're down to only 12 cars, your track position isn't going to be that bad, even if you do hit the wall or make a mistake or do anything. So hopefully that'll knock some sense into the drivers, and hopefully we can go clean for a couple more laps than we have for these past couple.
I'm going to have to look up and see the exact points for each position. At some point, if we keep losing cars, we're going to have a de facto champion in Ryan Carwile because he won't be able to finish low enough to lose enough points to Massey. So
well, the winner gets 40 points guaranteed by default, but he also gets 10 extra point. No, the halfway leader gets 10 extra points. Just kidding. The race winner gets 3 extra points. So if you win the race, that's another helpful 3 points. But just by default, it goes 40 and then down by 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. So while there are only, 12 cars left, Doug South is still in the session, but he's in the pit lane. So just by vanilla, you can't win the championship because there's 14 points in it. But with those bonus points, it's definitely not over yet.
So, okay, you're going to have to explain this one to me. The winner gets 40 points. The winner also gets 3 bonus points. So wouldn't he just be the winner gets 43 points?
Yes. So I don't know why they didn't program that into it originally, but yes, the winner gets 43 points, then second gets 39, and then there's halfway points, and then there's points for leading laps, and it's very complicated. I don't think they designed these point systems to be helpful for commentators trying to calculate points on the other tab of their Chrome, but it's racing, it's not commentating, so
exactly.
One way or another someone's going to win this thing, but it does not make it easy for me.
I was just more baffled that bonus points for winning, that is kind of like, well, wait a minute, then that just makes it the same score for a win. Anyways, I'll get off my high horse now as we're getting ready to restart. And it's Halpern on the inside of Hodgson. Carwile restarting in 7th. It's going to be, yeah, you were right, a 1-lap shootout to score the bonus points here. Massey starting from 4th place. Is that correct? No, 3rd place is where he is going to be restarting. Carwile in 7th. So they're both going to be eager to try and push as hard as they can. The other drivers at this stage, I'm not sure if it matters quite as much. Green flag is out. Decent jump for the 26. Massey gets a little bit hung out to dry. His Laughter is already starting to push around the outside of him for that 3rd spot. Carwile kind of boxed in with nowhere to go.
And Massey nowhere to go. He's still in 3rd. Hodgson gets a little bit high on exit, but he does not get out of the draft of Halpern here. Laughter's looking at the back of Massey. It looks like they're going to finish it as they started, at least in restart terms. Laughter is going to send it down to the bottom of Massey, but is he going to be close enough to beat him for 3rd at halfway? I don't think he is.
No, not unless he can get the line pretty quick here, and Massey's going to score, I believe that is 8 points for 3rd place. Carwile came across in 7th.
So that brings the championship lead down to 10 points, actually 11 points, because Carwile got a point for leading a lap. Massey hasn't yet. So I'm gonna have to calculate this once we get a lull in the race. I think it might still be possible with only 10 cars in the lead lap, but it would basically require Carwile getting wrecked now and being guaranteed to finish in 10th, and Massey winning for anything to change here.
Never say never. We've seen wilder things both today and in the past week and a half of racing, as around the outside of Laughter, Massey struggling to keep the 64 behind him. In fact, 64 is going to get a nice little bit of help from Casey Lakatos, and it looks like the 71 is joining them up high. That's Josh Banks, making it a group of 5 now. Back in the mid-pack, off of turn 4 and down the front stretch. Laughter not doing too shabby, looking at a potential podium here today.
And Carwile is very, very close to Massey. He's closer than Massey would like, but the easiest way to shut me and my math up is for Carwile to just pass Massey. And unfortunately for Ray, it looks like that's what's about to happen here. Massey is kind of clogged up there. He's behind Ben Laughter, pushing him forward. Carwile on the bottom. They're going to be side by side, the 2 championship contenders. Banks is going to stick it through the middle. Oh, 3 wide with the championship contenders and Banks in the middle. I think Carwile's going to back out of that one down the front straight.
Well, and the other thing for Carwile, I don't think he even needs to pass him. If it's a 10-point difference currently, if he just stays behind the 23, he's still got this one clinched. But he is going to try and go by along the bottom through 1 and 2. This is for 7th position. Doesn't have the speed, though. Remember, there's damage on that 71 that you can see there visibly. And it looks to me on the straightaways that he's a little bit down on top end.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that he's using the bottom line, which is much worse for the straightaway speed, and he is going to lose ground to Massey again, but he's quicker through the corner, it looks like. He just needs to figure out a way to get actually clear of Massey if he wants to make this pass, but he hasn't been able to do that. Massey's just been able to get that run on the high side that he needs. You can see it. There it is again on exit. That high line just much better to get that jolt down the back straight, and Carwile can't clear him.
As we watch this, let's stay here. I do want to give a shout out that Halpern has not won yet this season. This is the last chance for him. So Zach is trying to grab this opportunity with both hands, and there's the completed pass now as the 71 moves himself into 6th position.
And I put the calculator back in the drawer for now. Carwile's made this very easy, and he's made it very easy for himself because he's guaranteed to beat Massey no matter what here. He already was just one position behind him, but now we can actually focus on the cars ahead of them. These top 5 are line of stern here. Line astern, actually. That's a phrase I just learned a couple weeks ago. But Hodgson all over the back of Halpern. Licados, Banks, Laughter still there. And Carwile's going to be chasing him down before we know it.
Drifting up to the high side, Banks in the 36 has Laughter with him there. Doesn't seem to net them all that much as we now head down the backstretch. Halpern leading the way. The top 5 giving chase and sticking it in deep. The 95 finds himself almost getting a shot at taking the lead away, and now Licados is looking at it. Licados is another one that is yet to win this season.
And so is Hodgson, and so is Banks. The top 4 haven't won a race this season. Then you got to go back to Ben Laughter, who won Sonoma, and then Carwile, who has 3 wins. But these top 4, they're all fighting for their first win, and they want to take a little bit of the spotlight away from Carwile here in this final race. But which one of them is it going to be? Hodgson's been on the hot streak as of late this season. Could he finally get the win on the board? Could Halpern finally get it after being so close all of this season? And the returnee, Josh Banks, Casey Licados has been up there all season. This is going to be a good story no matter what, I think.
And we're at 57 to go now, so it's starting to tick down. Still riding that high side, the 64. Maybe looking to hold on to the tires a little bit more. Riding the longer way around, putting less steering angle into this thing. We've still got those top 10 as well, all relatively close together. Trejo and Downey Jr. dropping off somewhat, but not drastically so. In fact, there you see, all 10 cars can still be fit into the same shot.
But in this shot, Hodgson takes the lead from Halpern finally, and he's going to be completely clear of Halpern. Look at how far Zach is falling back. He's going to be at risk of Joshua Banks getting by him on the bottom as well. And Licados can't quite pick where to go. Do I go on the top? Do I go on the bottom? Who do I follow? He's just going to send it through the middle instead.
We haven't talked about it a lot, but Massey is also sporting some damage as we stay with this battle. Because I noticed that he's dropped off of Carwile and in fact has been passed by Hurley. So I wonder if Massey is suffering even more than what we see from Ryan. Currently on track. Bottom side is Banks that you see in the red, white, and blue. Top side is Halpern in the green and black. And wow, look at this. Carwile's caught up to Laughter. Might have a pass. We saw a glance of them for a brief moment. There you see the 71, and he is through. That's the top 5 for him now.
Yeah, Laughter didn't make that one too hard, but I think he might just want to follow Carwile here and use him as a pick to get up to these top 3, top 4. And something we do have to think about here with 54 laps to go, they'll likely still need to stop. They've already done 20 laps in this stint, and there's still 54 to go. I don't believe they can go 74 laps in a single tank here. So there will be a stop. And with only 10 cars in the field, while the top 4 might be close together, it's a lot more unlikely that we'll see a caution. So we might see green flag pit stops before the end of this race.
Oh, and you got to think that even if you can make it on a tank, would you really want to? The way some of the cars started to get kind of loose out there. It's now up to 129 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way. It continues to increase, and that's because we're smack dab in the middle of the day. It's about 2 p.m. virtual standard time here in Florida. And Carwile finds the track somewhat blocked as the 26 and the 50 we're picking either side. It elects not to go through the middle. He is going to be able to overtake Halpern. You talked about it before. Zach fast on the short run, but the long run seems to bite him.
Well, he did actually get back on Carwile there. You can see that straight line speed a little bit better for Halpern, but as he washes up into the high line, Carwile's just going to drive by him again. Halpern and Hodgson are actually on 10-lap older tires than Banks and Lakatos and Carwile. And Laughter's also on 10-lap older tires. So while Hodgson has actually been able to hold pretty well up in the lead, I think that might be part of the reason why Halpern continues to fall back. Those older tires are just starting to fall off that car.
Are we sure that Carwile took tires in that last stop, though? Because remember, he had to come in a couple times to try and get repairs. And I'm seeing him on 4 pit stops right now. That would mean he's out of tires if that's the case. I can't imagine he'd already be out with still 50 some odd laps to go.
Yeah, I don't think he used all of them because he's going to have to come in again to get more tires. So if he used all of them, he is not going to be in very good shape. But I don't think he took tires on each trip through the pit lane. I think one of them was just a fixed damage. As up front, I just saw a peak of orange up in the wall. I think Hodgson might have scrubbed the outside wall just a little bit. I'll have to take a look to see if he actually got into it. But either way, Banks is going to take advantage and try and get down to the bottom. Is he going to be able to clear him on those fresher tires? Not quite yet.
No, and Lucados has a huge head of steam, but he elects to use it to try and push that number 36 down into turn 3. That's exactly what the doctor ordered for Josh Banks. He is now well clear.
Yeah, Hodgson didn't hit the wall, but he did get very high and he did have to lift. So he falls back. Carwile thought about sending it to the bottom of Lucados. He's going to wait just a little bit longer. And these top 5, actually, Halpern's still around. And then you look back, Mike Hurley just passed Ben Laughter. He's on those fresher tires as well. Could he actually chase down these top 5 and join the fray here? It's not out of the question. He's running similar pace to Nolan Hodgson, who's the leader. So it's a 3-second gap he's got to bring down, but he is just that little bit quicker. So it's not out of the question if these 5 keep slowing each other down. This could be a great day for the number 32 car.
And our eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that Laughter was next to Ray Massey, who's down to 8th now. And that is just even another nail in the coffin of his championship hopes. And there you see him on screen now. Just is not going his way. Oh, and he's already getting quite loose off the exit of 2 there.
Yeah, there goes Laughter back by him down in the bottom. But through the middle line, looks like Massey's going to go for as Hurley in the 32. You see that peak of blue running the highest possible line. That didn't really work for him. He's actually falling back into the clutches of Laughter and Massey, who elect to work together a little bit down this front straight. Massey gives Laughter a push. Massey still likes that middle line. He's going to bring it down to the bottom, but either way, it's not going to do enough for him because Laughter on that high line, and the wiggle isn't going to help. Laughter's going to stay ahead of him.
So come back up to the leaders. Banks leads Lucados, leads Hodgson. Carwile still in 4th. Halpern still in 5th position as they tick off lap 85 now while they cross the line. If I'm Carwile, I'm not in too big of a hurry to make waves right now. This 4th place will seal his championship.
But Banks's tires have been known to fall off. Lucados, he's generally pretty good on his tires. And Nolan Hodgson, I couldn't even tell you, but we know Carwile is much better on his tires than Joshua Banks has been in this race. So while Banks continues to hold everybody up, if we go just a couple more laps in this stint, we may be past that 30-lap mark. Banks's tires could fall off the cliff. That might be when he elects to come in, but either way, Carwile's definitely got the speed to make this pass on track, but will he is the question. As Laughter pits, Ben Laughter's in the pits.
Oh, okay. This doesn't shock me too much. The 64 willing to take a risk, do something different to see if it can help him. And it looks like he nailed his pit stall, so that's good. It'll help out this early pit stop strategy. He is vulnerable, of course, to being trapped a lap down now. If we get a caution, he's going to get rolling just as our leaders come by.
And the leaders are running about almost 2 seconds, about 1.5 to 2 seconds slower than their best lap times. So this is actually, I would say, a great move for Laughter. He was only 4 seconds behind them, 5 seconds behind them. He's going to make up that gap in 2 to 3 laps, and he will have the lead if we go green. But then, of course, the trade-off is he's going to have worse tires later into the run, as opposed to all these drivers. But at least for now, the undercut will put him in the lead in the short term. The question will just be, can he hang on to it if we go green for 44 laps?
Yeah, he's going to have to do a slightly longer stint than those around him. Although I say that, it looks like Hodgson's on lap 40, so is Halpern and Massey. So they've got relatively old tires, those drivers. And 43 to go. Yeah, that'll be about even in terms of splitting it up for them if they start to pit now. But I got to think this is actually, like you said, I think this is a great call from Laughter, because the top runners are not going to want to try and make that risky maneuver and cover him. And he basically has his run of the roost, and Laughter can just use these tires to his glee out on the track by himself. Out of turn 2, that is Josh Banks leading Lakatos with Hodgson in 3rd, Carwile 4th, and Halpern P5. Bit of a checkup there in turn 3 for some reason that time.
Well, Lakatos is going to use that checkup to his benefit to get to the bottom of Josh Banks. Banks is wiggling up on the high side. I think he had to correct about 3 times, and Hodgson is going to send it 3 wide. Don't bring out the caution, Ben Laughter's thinking, and they're not going to get one because Lakatos backs out of it very smartly. But he's still in the middle. He's got a nose in there. Does everybody respect each other's boundaries? Yes, they do. And it looks like Lakatos is going to be clear of Hodgson once again. And unfortunately, the Oscar Mayer car is going to fall to the back of this train more than likely.
Or will it? Looks like he's hanging tough. And in fact, Lakatos looks like he's able to make that bottom line work pretty well as well, at least initially. And coming back at him, Banks is going to deny him. He's going to get back into line. 2 up high, 3 down low.
And just a quick Ben Laughter update. He's running 33 2s at the moment. Banks is running 34 6s. So I believe Laughter's already made up the gap he had. So Laughter will be in the lead once everybody else pits, assuming nothing goes terribly wrong. But he will have very, very old tires, much older tires than everybody else. Depending on when they come in, at the moment, he'll only have 4-lap older tires. But something tells me these drivers are showing no sign of coming in anytime soon. Is Tim Downey going to come in? He's pretty far back. He's got nothing to lose. He might as well come in. Oh, I think he might have hit the wall. Yeah, I see heavy damage on the front end of that car. He does bring it down pit road, but I don't think it's going to be for strategy.
Yeah, let's get a replay of the 25. He got loose on the exit of 2, and he pancaked it. And unfortunately, brunch is not what is waiting for him at the end of pit lane. It's just his disappointed crew getting ready to bang away at the sheet metal. There it is.
It could have been worse. It was a pretty heavy side swipe to the wall, but it could have been worse. That car's not going to be in the worst shape it's ever been in, as Downey brings it down pit road. How long is he going to sit to get that damage fixed? Probably a little bit longer than he would have liked. Yeah, he's still in there. He's still getting tires. Oh dear, he got the meatball we're hearing, so yeah, he's going to be in there for quite a while, but he is basically locked in 10th place with only 38 laps to go. Doug South still has a couple more minutes to fix that engine. David Mott Jr. still has a couple minutes to fix his engine, so Downey should be safe in 10th place here, but we'll see if he can get that car back out there and maybe get a couple more positions.
And in fact, as all this has been going on, you mentioned Laughter outpacing them. He's actually going to catch them and might have to pass them on the track to get his lap back here. That will be a big wake-up call, no doubt, as Lakatos got a wake-up call of his own. He doesn't hit the snooze, thankfully. He's able to keep it rolling, and he falls to 4th, so that's P3 now for Carwile.
If I was Lakatos here, honestly, I would take this opportunity while I'm down to bring it down pit road, but no, he actually does recover in line here, and he stays in 4th. Here's Carwile to the bottom of Hodgson. No, the middle works too well for Hodgson. Carwile not able to make the move just yet, but here comes Ben Laughter in the 64. You can see that full head of steam he's got. He's got to be careful not to run into anybody, but he should be able to make quick work of these top 4.
He's got the bottom side, probably what he wants right now as well. Shorter distance, has better grip, gets plugged up behind the Oscar Mayer Weeder car for a brief moment, and now he's on his way to being back onto the lead lap.
It's only got one more car. Banks up on the high side. Laughter says, thank you very much. I'm going straight by, as there was one car down pit road. That was Zach Halpern, as Laughter does bring himself back on the lead lap. Zach Halpern's going to be the next car who will have to get his lap back.
Halpern hits his marks, so he's going to take a risk. He knows he's quicker on those short stints. He can make up some time here on some fresh tires, but Banks is still our leader, who you see on screen being chased by Nolan Hodgson, unlapping himself. Ben Laughter in the teal and black 64 is now going to try and push as hard as he can, and we got another driver down the lane. That's Massey.
Massey bringing it down. Maybe he needs this strategy as well. He was quite a few seconds behind where Mike Hurley and Halpern and Laughter were, so he's on a similar strategy to them. He's covering off Zach Halpern, or just trying to work together with him or something. But up front, there's a lot of not working together here. Carwile and Hodgson still stuck side by side. The bottom hasn't been working for Carwile yet, and this time it's still not going to work. You can see the better run that Hodgson has through the middle of the corner. I would think that Carwile would have better tires under that car, but maybe the damage has just hurt him that little bit extra, and he hasn't been able to save like he used to.
So Carwile wants a little bit better than just coasting to the finish here. The question is, though, if you're that 71, at what point do you come in and take tires? Do you hold out as long as you can just in case there is a caution? Or do you try and cover off those who are now probably outpacing you by some margin?
I think that's what he's going to be doing. I think that's what everybody in this top 5 or top 4 is going to be doing. They're going to wait until potentially a caution comes out so they can still have that track position. But if the caution doesn't come out, they're not going to be in great shape. I'm looking at Ben Laughter. He's only 31 seconds behind the leader. It takes 40 seconds to go through pit lane. Ben Laughter's going to have a 10-second lead or more if they continue to wait. So that's a big gap to make up under green flag conditions. You can make it up. That's why Ben Laughter's back on the lead lap in the first place, but it's still a tall order. So I don't know how long you'd want to wait. And down pit road, who is this? That's 21. That's Eddie Trejo. It's another one from that second pack.
Here's the other question, though. What's the drop-off been like for Ben Laughter? I'm checking his times, and he started out doing 33.2s, 33.4s. He's up to 33.6s, so we're looking at about 0.3 of a second over the first 10 laps that you start to lose. So he is going to come out ahead of them, but how far ahead? Is it enough that he's pulled a gap over those? And well, this is going to be a big answer to that, with Nolan Hodgson electing to come in. Hurley follows him.
Yeah, I think the other 3 here are going to follow him straight in. They're going to want to cover him off here. Banks will see through the final corner. Carwile's all over the back of him. Halpern's getting his lap back on the outside there. Does Banks bring it in? No, he doesn't. He elects to wait, so I think Hodgson will probably jump these 2 as well. Lakatos comes in. Carwile and Banks swerving all over the place. Carwile wants the lead, but he's going to have to pit soon. I think both of these guys are going to have to pit soon.
Yeah, I really think this is pushing it at this stage. They need some laps to try and make good on the rubber on those tires. And Carwile and Banks are now vying for the lead. To the inside, it's the 71 of Carwile. Outside is Josh Banks, and he's clear of him. He's going to take it. It is now Ryan Carwile back up to the top spot, but he's on old rubber, and his rivals have been clawing away at that time. It's down to the inside. Now they're going to switch sides, and Banks is on the bottom side.
These drivers might value that late run speed more than this early run speed. They might value their chances of being able to drive through the field and make that pass at the end of the race rather than making the pass by coming into pit road early. We know Carwile has won at least one race this season on the final lap. He won the race last week after holding off a couple of hard chargers on new tires, so he knows what it's like to be in either position. And right now, being side by side with Josh Banks, that's not the way you want to come into pit road. They're showing no signs of coming in anytime soon, I don't think. They might wait for the longest possible moment, and that might not be for 10 more laps.
By the way, Laughter's already down to 33.9s. So he's dropping pace very quickly at this stage. The best has gone off them, and he's still got 27 laps to go. And Halpern, let's see what Halpern's running him down. So this is not a good sign for the 64's hopes of this alternate strategy.
Massey just got his lap back. Nolan Hodgson gets his lap back now. Next up will be Licata, Trejo, and Hurley will hopefully be able to get all of their laps back. But the longer Banks and Carwile late, the further they're going to be behind. But the younger tires they're going to have later in the run, they're not going side by side into turn 3 this time. Could this be the lap that Banks finally brings it in?
He does. He just announced it on the radio that he is pitting in, but Carwile is going to stay out. How much
Banks doesn't make it. He misses it completely.
Oh, no. And that gives up precious time to Ben Laughter. So here's the question. We posited that we didn't think that the drivers could make it to the end before. Can they? Is the fuel enough? If Carwile decides to just hang it out, could he keep Laughter behind him?
I don't think there's any chance because they've already done 48 laps. There's 25 to go. That's 73 laps on a single tank of fuel at 1.5 miles.
There he is. There he is.
Carwile. Banks does finally make it down pit road. He doesn't miss it this time. Is he going to get it slowed down? Yes, he is, but he lost 1.4 critical seconds to Carwile. It could have been worse, but that's the worst part of it. It's not losing time to Laughter. It's losing time to the guy he was actually fighting, Carwile, which is now 2.6 seconds as they cross the line.
And let's remember that Massey is his main one that he's watching out for. Massey's actually sitting in 6th right now in a battle with Hodgson. And where is Carwile and Banks? They're not rolling, so they are going to be easily ahead of them. Actually, way ahead of them. They are flying by, and now Carwile is moving.
And now this is where it gets interesting. This is where Carwile and Banks have to go full song as fast as they possibly can for 24 laps, because once we cross the line here, we're going to see the real gaps between everybody. At the moment, it looks like it's going to be about 13, 14 seconds for Carwile and 17 for Banks. So that's even worse for Banks than it was originally coming into the pits. But let's check the lap difference. Once Carwile crosses the line, it's an out lap this time, so it's going to be longer than a normal lap. So next time around,
I don't think it's Laughter he's got to worry about now. It is Halpern who has caught Laughter and looks like he has the rubber underneath him to make this an easy pass. Here he comes. This might actually happen right here down the front stretch.
he's not going to lead the lap, but he is going to get by him down on the bottom, and that's going to be an easy move. It worked in the short term for Ben Laughter. You have to applaud the effort for making the move to get the lead, to get the track position. Unfortunately, looks like it's not paying off for the moment. Halpern takes the lead. He did a 33.4 last lap, and Ryan Carwile did a 33.3, so it's not that different at the moment, but in a couple laps time, I think that's when it will be.
Exactly. And with 22 laps to go, we are, well, is everybody on the lead lap? I think, yeah. Every driver's on the lead lap that is out on track right now, but we've lost Tim Downey Jr. He's had to call it a night, so we're down to 9 drivers left. Have we reached that threshold now? Is Massey unable to beat Carwile from here?
Well, actually, we have 10 cars on track, because guess who just left the pits after a 33-minute engine repair? Carwile's getting by him now. There's Doug South in the 56. He gets the Phoenix Award. He's going to rise from the ashes. And this is actually going to be a somewhat meaningful return to the track. He's 49 laps down, but Weekly's also 49 laps down. Cockrell and Mott are 48 laps down. He's going to go from 14th to 11th here. And does he have enough laps to catch Downey? No, he doesn't, but he's going to finish 11th instead of 14th, and that's still extra points.
I think Doug owes his virtual pit crew around tonight for getting that thing back out there and rolling. And credit to him for keeping with it, even if he's not going to be able to really do much in the way of racing. And now Laughter loses out to Hodgson, so it's down to 3rd with Ray Massey coming along.
This is what green flag pit stops can get you. We've got about 7 different strategies. Just about nobody came in at the same lap as another driver. So Hodgson actually has 5-lap younger tires than Halpern, so he could chase down Halpern for the win, just as Carwile and Banks could chase down everybody for the win. So it is completely unknown whose strategy is going to pay off at the end here. We know it probably won't be Ben Lafter until we get a yellow, but Hodgson's faster than Halpern. Carwile has brought that gap down to 10.7 seconds. The difference on that last lap, he was half a second faster than Halpern, but there's less than 20 laps to go. I'm not sure if Carwile can actually catch him. He's got a lot of ground to make up. It's not impossible, but it's a tall order.
And I'm seeing Massey about to pass Ben Lafter, who's running in the 34.6s at this point. He has lost the good on those tires, and there goes Massey into the podium. But that's still not going to be good enough to beat Ryan Carwile, who still sits in 6th. Is running very good laps, 33.3s, and last time was a 33.2 for him. This time 33.4, so a little bit slower, but even still consistent there in that number 71.
This just reminds me of Pocono last week. It's Carwile doing the chasing this time, though. He's not getting chased down, and there's not as much teamwork as there was last week. Remember, Lakatos and Massey were kind of working together, giving each other a little bit of a draft, pushing each other to catch up to Carwile. Carwile's got no buddies back there. He's all on his own in 6th place, just trying to make this up on pure pace. He is down to 9.5 seconds, but as the laps tick down, he's got a lot of cars to get through. I think it might be more of a Hodgson-Halpern fight than a Halpern-Carwile fight.
Yeah, I think Hodgson is looking the best position here with 16 to go, because he's still got plenty left underneath him and has it down to half a second on the 26 as they come across the line. This time just about 3.5 tenths between the two, and wow, you can visibly see him closing into these corners.
Nope, I think Doug South's engine has expired again. Unfortunately, the new shipment from Toyota, it's not quite working out for him. I think he just blew up again.
Surprising. My Toyota's been running forever as he comes around and is able to cruise in without bringing out the caution flag. Thankfully, that definitely would have changed everything. We haven't talked about that, but there's so few cars. We didn't expect it. And in fact, we could see the 95 take the lead right here. He's going to look underneath, but the 26 is going to play hard. He is going to pinch him down to the bottom. The 95 cannot drift up, but he doesn't need it. And that's the lead for Nolan Hodgson.
Not quite confirmed yet through turn 3. He might be able to clear him, but he isn't. Halpern's still hanging tough on the outside. He's got the optimal line out there. He's going to make this go as long as he can, and he's actually going to lead at the line. So Hodgson not able to make the move yet, but he has the advantage. He has the fresher tires. Everything's looking good for him, but he just isn't able to clear Halpern just yet. He's squeezing him as low as he possibly can.
Making him work for this one. And he manages to still get ahead here. The 95 is going to have to do something decisive, really chuck it into the corner, which he seems to have done there. Does he wash up and force him out? Big moment for the 26, who had to chase it up the hill. And that finally gives the lead to the 95.
And this is great news for Hodgson. He's clear of Halpern. He can start to streak away just a little bit to try and extend that gap to Carwile, who's now down to 7.2 seconds with 12 laps to go. On your screen, you can see it's now down to 6.4 seconds. He is carving through the field. It might not be over. I thought it might be over, but Carwile is proving me wrong. He's almost a second faster than Halpern was. Now that Hodgson's in clean air, we'll see how he compares to Nolan. But Carwile's definitely not out of this. I'm going to eat my words here, and I'm going to say that he's still in this, but he's got 6 seconds to make up in 12 laps.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. And he did just take 5th away from Lafter. I think a podium is looking pretty certain. I don't know if the win is on the cards for him, as we're looking at Lakatos here with Massey closing in on him. 34.4 last time for Massey. Lakatos 34.1. So actually, did Lakatos just pass him? Is that the question? Have I got that reversed?
I think they're in the same order they were before on the last lap. So Lakatos stays ahead of Massey. They're just running in line here. Lakatos wants to hang on to this podium. Massey wants to finish the season with a podium as well, but Massey's on 5-lap older tires than Lakatos is, so that's going to be a tall order for him. And he's going to have to look in his rearview mirror here as Carwile's catching both of them. Carwile's almost a second faster than Massey, and he's only at 1.5 seconds behind him. So that's going to be tough for Carwile to get by Massey and Lakatos. Those were the two that were trying to chase him down last week. Now he's in the alternate position. Are they going to make it easy for him? Are they going to open the door for him to chase down Halpern and Hodgson? I don't think they're going to be that nice. I think they're going to make him fight for it.
Absolutely. I mean, why not at this stage? Carwile's got it within half a second now on that pair as we are watching the leaders on screen. Hodgson up to about 0.6 of a second. Oh, and Josh Banks just overtook Ben Lafter. So Banks getting back and recovering from his mistake entering pit lane there some laps ago. In fact, we are now already at 8 laps left on the ticker. So the time is running out. If you ask me, I think Carwile waited just a little too long, although it won't lose him the championship as it sits now. But not as good of a result as I'm sure he would have liked.
Is he going to send it to the bottom of Massey here? He's probably going to have to. He can't be waiting there for too long, and he does get to the bottom of Massey, and he's easily clear of him. Now can he get as easily clear of Lakatos is the next question. He's going to cross the line to get 8 to go, and he's going to have 4.3 seconds to make up. He's going to need half a second per lap or more. It's actually 7 to go, so he's going to need more than that. He goes to the high side here. Is he going to be able to get around Lakatos easily? Not quite yet, but I think he'll have the bottom into turn 3, and then he'll have clear road up 4 seconds, 3.5 seconds to Halpern.
He pulled in behind him, decided that he didn't really want to pass after he had a bit of an open door, maybe setting him up here off of turn 4. No, still not showing the speed. He could still be experiencing the lack of top ends. And now that he's caught Lakatos, it's looking slightly tougher than we anticipated for him to try and make that overtake. This is not good. He's still at 3.9 seconds behind the overall leader.
Yeah, that might be the problem here. That little bit of damage. Lakatos' car looks to be mostly damage-free, and he's actually going to block that bottom line off, so he's not happy to let Carwile through, but he's slow through the middle of the corner. Carwile drives it in on the bottom. If he can get the side draft here, he will get the side draft. He will be able to clear him into turn 1, I think. But then he's still got those 4 seconds to make up to Hodgson, and I think time might have run out.
I agree. Now he is into P3. Podium finish potentially for the 71 unless we get a fight back from the 50. And I thought we would briefly, no, he's going to help him, give him a little bit of a hurry up from behind.
Through turns 3 and 4, watch the number on your screen next to Carwile's name. He didn't make up any time through turns 3 and 4 on Hodgson and Halpern. So his chances of catching them, unfortunately, appear to be 0 now, as he's not making up any time at all. Hodgson's still pulling away from Halpern. If everything stays as it is, it's going to be a foregone conclusion here. Hodgson is going to be comfortably running home to his first win of the season.
He was 0.2 quicker than Hodgson, but 0.2 is not going to do it with 4 laps to go. 3 laps to go here as we come to the line, and 2.5 seconds to try and make up. This time for Nolan Hodgson, it is a lap of about 34.3. Carwile ran a 34 flat, 0.3 quicker. Again, too little, too late.
And now is Halpern going to get desperate here? He's got to bring down 1.3 seconds in 3 laps. It's almost a physical impossibility, but what can he do other than try and run the high line as fast as he humanly can? Or just hope that Hodgson makes a little bit of a mistake. Maybe he clips the apron. Maybe he gets a little bit content with his lead and he just loses focus, but it doesn't look like Nolan's going to do that. This has been a fantastic second half of the season. It's been a fantastic chase for Nolan Hodgson, and I think it was only a matter of time until he finally got that win, and right now it looks like that's going to be easy comings for him with 2 more laps to go.
Well, it's been a long time coming, that's for sure, for Nolan Hodgson, who still has yet to take a victory. In fact, he's only had 2 top 5s in the entire season. So Let's see if this finally changes his fortunes as he gets the white flag. 1 to go for Nolan Hodgson to close out the season on a win. Can he do it? Carwile way too far back at this stage. A second and a half from Halpern. 2.8 seconds behind Hodgson. But he will clinch the championship with him having passed Massey. Nobody is able to beat him on points as it sits right now. Nolan Hodgson brings it out of turns 3 and turns 4. And he is going to be yet another winner in this incredible season for the Outsiders Racing League, closing out the 2021 season with a victory. It goes to Halpern for second, and Carwile is your champion. Fantastic stuff. What a race there at the end. We got caught up in some cautions, but I enjoyed that last stint as we went green all the way through the pit stops. And a congratulations to Carwile from Lakatos. Great stuff between those two. We are going to take a quick break, but the show is not over. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews while you watch the 71 burn it down.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Homestead Miami Speedway. The season finale here for the Outsiders Racing League saw Nolan Hodgson finally get a win. Zach Halpern unfortunately did not claim one at all this season, and he was so close, about 1.5 seconds behind on that last green flag stint and finished second. But it is Ryan Carwile with 3 wins over the course of the season to manage the championship with a podium here today. Casey Lakatos was 4th from 10th. A nice little jump up the order as Josh Banks gets a top 5 after a bit of a mistake. Definitely cost him a shot at some better results there. Ray Massey was P6 as he was just short of the championship in the end. Ben Laughter wound up finishing 7th. He took an alternate strategy in that last stint, and it at least got him 7th, but kind of fell apart by the time he got to the checkered flag. Trejo was 8th with Michael Hurley, the last one on the lead lap in 9th. Tim Downey Jr. was the first of our DNFs, with Doug South eventually coming home in 11th. Everybody else did not see the checkered flag here today, as it certainly seemed to be a costly one out there for our runners. And it looks like we have second place ready to talk to us. Oh, no, I take that back. We have our winner ready to talk to us. Nolan Hodgson just showed up in our Discord, so we're going to pull him in and talk to him. Nolan, it hasn't been the best of seasons. This is only your 3rd top 5, but to get that one with a win at the end of the season, that's got to be the best you could ask for.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm just, my heart's still pumping, to be honest with you. Zach really kept me on edge those final, 8 or 9 laps. I'm almost speechless because I've worked so hard for this. These are not easy races to win by any stretch of the imagination, and to get it at the final race, it felt so good. We created a new branch of our team that I'm on, and we switched to Fords because of a sponsor. And what do you know? Our new Ford got the win.
That's nicely done. How did you plan out that strategy, though? Did you know where you wanted, like when you wanted to pit if this stayed green? Were you kind of counting down to that, or were you playing it by ear?
So kind of at the I knew that I didn't pit on those on that last set of pits or the last caution there. So I wanted to save my tires as best as I could. But I thought that 30 laps to go, that was a nice even number. I figured that people would wait a little bit longer because that's how much longer the fuel could go. And I knew that the tire wear is real nice here. That if I pitted even those 7 laps earlier, that I would have that tire advantage. And I'm so happy that strategy came to fruition.
Well, we've seen a lot of different winners this season. When we come around to next season, I hear word that it might not be in this car, but do you feel like this does still give you momentum when things come back around and the 2022 season kicks off?
Yeah, when we'll have to see what happens. Obviously it'll be a different car, so I'll have to put a bunch of practice in. To keep my pace with these guys. They're rockets out there. So yeah, I'll have to see what happens when that comes around.
Yeah, it's understandable. Again, congratulations. Is there anybody you want to thank for today's victory?
Well, I want to thank my parents for getting this amazing setup that I got here. As my dad would say, Ford wins. And my team for supplying me this amazing car that you see in Victory Lane today. That's about it.
That was Nolan Hodgson taking the win from 9th on the grid as Zach Halpern came up just short, could not get a win this season. We'll see how he feels as Joey Tebben has caught up with him.
Yeah, Zach Halpern, it's been so close this whole season, so many top fives, but just not close enough today. Did you think you had a shot with that alternate strategy, or did you kind of know that Hodgson was coming through as it played out?
I definitely felt like I had a good shot at winning this race. I definitely had some really good short run speed, and I just was racing people early on, and it's pretty hard to pass when you're all on equal tires here. I just pit a little too early. If I waited a couple laps, it definitely would have been a little bit more equal footing there at the end. But it's just frustrating. It seems like a lot of starts this year I've just been off on strategy by a couple laps, it seems, or I just can't get things to go my way necessarily. And I'm happy that I'm able to finish up front all the time, but the win would be nice for once.
Well, you did finish, or you did participate at least in every single race this season. You were one of few drivers who was here for all 13. So I guess what keeps you coming back for the full season? What keeps you coming back to all these ORL races?
This year was probably one of the best years of ORL. In my opinion, I felt like this year the drivers were a lot more respectable than they used to be. A lot of drivers have matured as well. And also with Tim being back on the team, it was nice because he's kind of like a rock for me. And when he's in the race with me, I tend to do a lot better. I don't think as much and I kind of just drive. But, it's just unfortunate. Had a rough playoffs and, race 1, I got dumped by Carwile first off and lost out on stage points. So I was already behind. And then the whole incident at Auto Club and, that's unfortunate. And then last week I was running really well at Pocono and I had an iRacing glitch where I got 2 right side tires on their green flag stop. And so that, that cost me about 15 seconds on pit road. And then tonight things were finally going my way and just wrong strategy. So it's the name of the game and we'll be looking for another one eventually one other day.
Well, you did bring it home by the preliminary calculations by Brian Chambliss. You brought it home 5th in the championship this season. So how do you feel about that at the end of it all? And how are you feeling coming into next season?
Considering I got wrecked 2 of the 4 playoff races and missed out on stage points, and then the 3rd playoff race I missed out on stage points pretty much because of iRacing glitch, to still finish 5th and be where I am I'm pretty happy about it. I feel like I was up front the whole season. I was always a contender for the win, and I felt like I put on a good show for everyone at home watching, and you guys always do a great job announcing, and so it was just a really good season, and hopefully we can build on it. There's not much else to say, though. I didn't win the championship, and I unfortunately didn't win a race this year. It came close, but close doesn't count. So, but again, I just want to thank you guys for everything that you do. I want to thank ORL for everything that they do, and I especially want to thank Tim and Downey Enterprises for everything that they do for me. They're basically like family to me at this point, and I really appreciate everything that they've done for me, including ORL as well.
And look at that. I didn't even have to ask him to thank those people. Zach Halpern, your 5th place championship winner, your 2nd place champion, or your 2nd place race finisher tonight, and a very thankful man indeed. But we've got one more driver who's probably going to be more thankful than anybody else. He came into this race in a 14-point deficit, or at a 14-point advantage. He left it with a 14-point advantage, and he's with Joe.
Indeed, it's Ryan Carwile, our newly crowned champion. Congratulations, Ryan. How are you feeling?
Yeah, man, I feel pretty great. It's always great to win a championship.
I'm sure, but it wasn't a guarantee coming into this, and we mentioned as much at the top of the show. And partway through the race, you got caught up in an accident. What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, luckily, it didn't seem like I took a hard hit. Like, it was a little crinkled, and I think it was like 36 seconds optional. So at that point, I was just kind of focused on trying to recover and not get into another wreck like that. Fortunately, I got put in the middle of a 3 wide.
You were also one of the last drivers to come pit in that last green flag stint. Do you regret that, or was that just covering yourself off to make sure you didn't get caught out by another caution?
Yeah, it was making sure I didn't get caught up by a caution. The other thing is, in hindsight, I don't think this was the best idea, but I pitted to get go for the stage points, and I only had 1 set left, so I was waiting as long as possible just in case there was another caution in there.
So we wondered about that. We were debating on how many sets exactly you did have left, because we noticed how many times you had been down pit lane. But all in all, this seems very fitting. The winningest driver in this season with 3 wins on the trot. Is there anybody you want to thank for your accomplishments this season?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the admins, Ryan and David, for putting this on. A lot of work goes into running the league and dealing with all the drivers. We're a whiny bunch. And of course, like last week, I'll say I'll take my mom again.
Great stuff there from Ryan Carwile. 3rd place, but the crowned champion here for 2021, and that's going to close us out. So we want to give a big thank you as well to the Outsiders Racing League for bringing us on to cover this season, and also thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. And thanks to the team today, Joey, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at Global SimRacing Channel or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.